All righty, we're good.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Friday, 27. And obviously, we know now, very well ingrained in our minds, that the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We shall persevere until we succeed, Og Mandino. So Dan and I were talking this week, and there's been a lot of excitement about revamping one of the Tony Robbins's many inspiring and successful talks and so on that he's had over the years. And this one was about breakthroughs. So the breakthrough is something that often we talk about. And he talked about this, and his quote here at the beginning was, "Breakthroughs aren't reserved for the brightest or the strongest. They're reserved for those who dare to dream of a different way." Tony Robbins. So I'd like to make a couple of comments, before we get into what Tony Robbins is meat and tomato, the meat of the thing from Tony Robbins. And I'd like to say that, last week we talked about an entrepreneur having 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration to become, inspired to do something. But the first obstacle to overcome is identifying what it is that we're dreaming about. What do we want? How badly do we want it? What's holding us back? We don't even know. We would like to have a breakthrough. To where? For what? Why? Many of us dwell in the comfort zone of mediocrity, believing that it's our fate and our destiny, because that's what we've come to believe. It's only when we compare ourselves with others that we become frustrated and anxious, even depressed, because of our limiting beliefs. Maybe then that we begin to look for something better, something different, something with more meaning. But have we got the courage to do that? Courage of conviction to actually make the move? That's when we think about a breakthrough. And a breakthrough could be with our family, our relationships, our friends, our business, our work, our whatever it is, because we often can stagnate. It's like the story of we kind of stagnate, and we have colorless relationships, and we go into this era of boredom, of just being colorless. And that's maybe when we start to introspect and say, we need a breakthrough. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Yeah, these breakthroughs, they can be, you can have a financial breakthrough, you can have a spiritual breakthrough, you can have a work-related breakthrough. But if you're stuck in a rut and your life is not going how you want it to, then you need to look for a personal breakthrough. Something that changes the course of your life moving forward. Something that ensures that things will never be the same for you again. But most of all, what a breakthrough requires is the courage and the bravery to stop settling for second best. I've had multiple breakthroughs in the last 5 years. Some of them were health related. Some of them were work related. Some of them were financially related. But you have to be willing to get outside of your comfort zone to do that. So many people are stuck in their comfort zone that they're unwilling to make the changes that you need to make to have a breakthrough, to make your life better. Everything you need in your life already exists. The problem is that your mind is blocking you from seeing the success that the successes in your life, the tools that you already possess that could catapult you into the right direction. Right. So, my breakthrough 5-6 years ago in med device sales was I was just tired of standing around wasting my life waiting for things to happen. And so I said, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to create a lifestyle that allows me to do what I want to do, be on my schedule, not somebody else's schedule. So that was my first breakthrough. My second breakthrough was being diagnosed with cancer. That was a huge breakthrough for me. It made me realize that I needed to start eating healthier, that I needed to change some of my habits, that I had to have less stress in my life, less anxiety, less work-related things that were stressing me out. So those are some of the breakthroughs that I've had over the last 5 years, and they've really catapulted me to where I am today, because I have that drive and I have that ambition and I have those set goals for myself that I don't want to be back in that place. And I talk to medical device sales reps every single day, and I hear the same thing from each and every one of them. They're tired of it. They're stressed out. They're sick. They're tired of working for somebody else. They're tired of being on somebody else's schedule, but they can't, for one reason or another, they don't have the courage, the bravery, the finances, whatever it may be, to break the chains of where they're currently at. And it's not easy. Think about going from a consistent paycheck to the proposition of having to live off of your savings for 3, 6, 9 months until you actually create the revenue that you need to survive. That's a harrowing thought. But once you make that decision, then and only then are you going to move forward. Once you've had that breakthrough, sometimes you have to hit a low point before you're able to move forward. The low point is kind of like your breakthrough, right? So for me, the low point was I looked back and I said, I've been in med device sales for 25 years. 7 years of that was me just waiting around. That didn't even include driving. 7 years of that was me waiting around in operating rooms, waiting in doctors' offices to see them, and they may or may not even see me. After I've waited there for 3 or 4 hours, that just ate at me day in and day out. So that was, for me, that was my low point. I was like, it doesn't matter how much money I'm making, it's not worth it anymore.
Yeah, well, we plateau. We find that we get to a certain point in our lives when it just becomes kind of meaningless, and we start comparing and we seeing what is out there, and we introspect. But some of us don't even do that. We end up at 65 and we retire. We look forward to retirement. I think that's a horrible thing. Horrible. To look forward to your retirement means that what you're doing is you're actually not delighted and happy with the work that you do. And so we wishing away our lives. Dan just calculated it was 7 years that he wasted his life just waiting around. And these are things that we talk about when we talk to people. We say, for example, how many hours a day do you drive? Oh, about 2 hours a day. All right, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, 10 hours a week, 50 weeks is 500 hours a year. Divide by 8 if it was useful time. that's 60 days of the year. That's over 2 months of the year that we're sitting on gluteus maximus looking at the windscreen. That's when we find that we look around and we say, my gosh, I need a breakthrough. I need to do something different. I need something better. Why are some people being able to have a better life than I am at that time? And it's when the pain of discomfort is more than the pain of uncomfortability, if that is a word, you will have a breakthrough. In other words, when it's so painful to be where you are, that the pain of coming out of it is less than where you are, that's where you're going to start moving, you're going to start doing something, you're going to have a real move in your breakthrough. And the other thing is the neurolinguistics that go with it. We think to ourselves, well, this is all I know, this is what I can do, this is how I am, this is who I am, and so on and so on. And actually, the neurolinguistics is our best friend, and it's also it could be the treacle which stops us going forward, because we stagnate in that mindset of well, this is who I am, rather than, my gosh, this is who I could be. Wow, this is what I really want to be. So, this neurolinguistics part of it is something that's very, very important as well. And then we also come to the story. And the story is well, it's because I used to talk about a story of the mayor of Miami years ago. He was a mayor of Miami, and they interviewed him and said, "Mayor, how come you're so successful, and such a upstanding citizen?" And he said, "Well, my dad is an alcoholic, and he was never amounted to much. And when I look at my dad, that's what motivated me." And he said, "Well, your brother's an alcoholic." And so they interviewed the brother, and he was an alcoholic. And they said, "Why are you an alcoholic?" And he said, "Well, look at my dad. My dad was an alcoholic." So it's our perception of what we want to be and who we want to be, to see what kind of a breakthrough we want, and if we indeed want one.
Yeah, I mean, what does a breakthrough mean to you personally? It means something different to everybody, but a breakthrough is a moment in time when everything changes, when what you thought was impossible becomes possible, right? But most importantly, you have to act on it. You don't just think about it, you do something. You see people get stuck all the time. They get stuck in sadness, they get stuck in acceptance, they get stuck in anger, they get stuck in worrying about their finances. But in order to create something new, you have to know that your whole life can change in a moment. I'm sure everybody on this call has had multiple breakthroughs in your life already. So can you think back to your past? Can you recall something that you struggled with for years? A change you wanted to make, a change you needed to make, but you didn't do it. How did you feel when you realized that you didn't do it? And you should have. You came close to doing it, but then you procrastinated and you gave up. And I'm sure if you think back now, back shortly after that, you were mad at yourself. Dr. Joe's on here. He does metabolic reset. He deals with people that have had breakthroughs on a daily basis. They've had enough. They're overweight. They want help. They need to do something, but they don't know how to do it. Their first step is acknowledging that and then reaching out and getting on Joe's program. That's a breakthrough. They're tired of being tired. They're tired of not taking action. But eventually there's something's going to happen that pushes you over the edge. And you say to yourself, not another day, not another hour, not another minute. I'm changing this now. And we're all capable of creating breakthroughs in our lives. But the problem is often a need for certainty keeps us from pushing through, right? We want to know what the outcome is before we take that step. And there's no possible way of knowing what that outcome is going to be, right? So that's just basic human survival. I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the devil I don't know, right? So that's what keeps us stuck. So, getting unstuck requires you to have a strategy. You can have all the enthusiasm and positivity in the world, but if your goal is to see the sunset and you run east, you're never going to see it, right? And people get stuck all the time because they have the wrong strategy. How many times have you heard somebody say, "I'm trying to lose weight and I've tried everything"? You haven't. Have you tried everything? Do you need a different strategy? A lot of times it's just a different strategy. And that different strategy is where you're going to see your breakthrough, right? You can't do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. you have to change your strategy.
If we look at what you've just said, Dan, that we're afraid to go forward unless we're sure of where we're going. Well, if you watch Shark Tank, people on Shark Tank have a common denominator. There must be a better way. And that's why they become creative. They invent stuff, and they start doing things that's out of their comfort zone. It may be an airline pilot who's, tired of flying all the time, and he suddenly sets up a candy store, not a store, but some new kind of a candy or something. I'm just saying there must be a better way. And that's one of the motivations for us that prompts us to do something that's out of our comfort zone, because we're in the comfort zone of being uncomfortable. And there's a better way. Our mental and emotional state control everything. That's the point of these mindset calls. The point of the mindset calls is to actually ignite the fire of questioning. Am I the best I can be? Am I the person I want to be? Am I the person I aspired to be? Or have I gone somewhere else? All of these are questions that we should be asking ourselves, because they're the questions that it's like taking stock. You go to your shop at the end of the year or the end of the month, and you see what you sold, what's left, what's not left, what you need to restock. Well, we've got to restock our minds. We've got to restock our thinking. We've got to rethink how we want to go forward. Is this what we want? Is this how we want to do it? Or is there a better way? And if there is a better way, which is it? Why do we want it? How are we going to do it? All of these are questions about the breakthroughs that we're trying to, that eventually Tony Robbins talks about in specific ideas, but I'm just adding up some of the opinions that I have about the mindset, of the breakthroughs. So, the breakthrough it could be anything. It could be a breakthrough with a better relationship with one's family, the spouse or the kids. I joke about kids being, teenagers being extraterrestrials that live in the home there, and you don't know who the hell they are, and you think, my goodness, these are the kids these are my kids, and I really don't understand them at all. The breakthrough might even be to understand somebody that is an alien, like one's own kids. So there are many, many breakthroughs in our business. That's what we constantly strive, is to have better results. And that's why we're constantly trying to learn things and find out what's a better way. To improve ourselves.
Yeah, having this strategy is really important, and part of having that strategy, or part of that strategy, is setting a new standard. Once you leave behind all your old stories, make some empowering new decisions, you have to set some new standards. Your standards determine what your minimum requirements are for each area of your life. My personal breakthrough came when I was diagnosed with cancer, and I spent 10 days in the intensive care unit. And, all the thoughts that were going through my head is, how are people going to remember me? I lived in the same house for the last 22 years. For 15 of those years, I don't think I talked to any of my neighbors, because I was always working or I was sleeping. And it wasn't until Kate and the boys moved in that I started interacting with all of the neighbors, and each and every one of them were like, yeah, we didn't even know you existed. And it's, and so that made me start to think about, how are people going to remember me? And they're not going to remember me as somebody who worked 18 hours a day and slept, 6 hours a day. They're going to remember me for what I did for others, and what I did to support others, and what I did to help others grow. And so, these new standards are what are going to move you in the right direction with these breakthroughs. You have a list of what you're going to accept from the external world or people in your life. Your standards become your musts, and you should be unwavering in your pursuit of the standards, right? My standards are that I do something 2 or 3 times a week to help others. I help hand out food. I help pack food for a food bank here locally. I do things for somebody on a daily basis. And that's part of my new standard, is giving to others, making sure that others come first. Obviously I take care of myself, but I want to put others first. There was, a big swath of my life where all I did was take care of myself. And that's important. But at this point in my life, my breakthrough is I want to help take care of others. And whatever I can do in the pursuit of that goal is what I'm going to do. And then setting these new standards are part of designing your new life. Part of a successful breakthrough is to know what you would like the future to look like for you. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Do you want to travel? Do you want to create a massive change in the world? Do you want to start a nonprofit? The answers to these types of questions will help you uncover the life that you want, the life that you can design. You have to have that vision. You have to have these ideas, these standards to make that happen. So there were some things that I looked at, I look at when I'm thinking about the breakthroughs that I've had in my life. I had an incredible network of people. I had a group of close friends. I had a great career at one point that I really enjoyed, but then I no longer enjoyed it anymore. I was just doing it because it was part of my standard. So write a list down. Think about those things that you want. Think about those standards that you want in your life that you are not willing to break, and create new habits for these standards and design the life that you want.
Dan, you mentioned something that I used to talk about a long time ago as well, which is what you've just said now. I remember I was at an event sometime, and somebody asked me to say something, and I said, write your own epitaph. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, on your tombstone, write the message of your tombstone that you'd like to be remembered. Do you want to be remembered as someone who just made a lot of money? That's it? Or is there something more meaningful that you're leaving behind? That's what it's about. It's not about money. It's what you do with it if you have it. It's what you do with it, how you help other people. But write your epitaph. And somebody said, oh my gosh, that's very dark. And I said, no, it's something that will prompt you to make wise decisions that will give you a fertile life. If you think about, once you're gone, they're going to say, oh, there's this guy. Oh, I don't know. He was my neighbor here. And, he's got 16 vehicles and lots of toys, and that's it. So that's important. I think you're right. And I think these are the things that spark or ignite us into the breakthroughs that we might want to have if we think about things. But a lot of us don't even have time to really think about these different things that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that irritates me the most when I talk to people and I have these conversations is so many people are unwilling to take that first step. They're unwilling to take action. They think it's going to happen by osmosis. But we have to think about our story. What's your story up until this point in your life? And what do you want your story to be from today moving forward? I think a lot of us tell ourselves things that can be quite harmful. I'm not good enough. I should be making more money. It's not my fault. I'm failing. Other people cause these problems. I don't have the skills to follow my passion. well, grow those skills. You're in control. So the purpose of analyzing your story is to become aware of the lies you're telling yourself, the things that are holding you back. You know, there's all this self-doubt that we create in our minds. But once we start putting these things into action, when we create these new standards, when we see these breakthroughs, that's when we begin to grow and realize that we're way more than what we tell ourselves, right? We can be more successful than we ever thought we were. We can be good enough. We can make as much money as we want to make. When you start taking the blame for your own inaction, that's going to open up your whole world, because you've stopped placing the blame on others. Nobody else can control your future. You're the only one that can do that. You know, so your stories are what's stopping you from having these personal breakthroughs in the first place. And there's no way to have a personal breakthrough unless you decide to form new, empowering stories.
Dan, on that subject of breakthroughs, for me, I've always had, when I say always, for many years, I've had this self-limiting belief that technology is something that is like an alien trigonometry that I don't understand. And I started to understand that that is an excuse. It's a lie. I tell myself I'm not less intelligent than anybody else, not less gifted than anybody else. I've just been scared to make the mistakes because it, for me, was an embarrassment. Now I'm actually timidly doing all sorts of stuff that I've never done before, and I'm laughing at my mistakes. So it's tweaking that moment of embarrassment to a moment of hilarity. And I'm saying, wow, what a twit. Look what you've just done. You've just done this instead of that. And I'm taking it lightly instead of like it's a life or death thing. And being fearful of making the mistakes. So now I'm actually having fun making mistakes because I'm actually progressing. And for me, that's a big thing in technology. I mean, seriously. So the state is something important. The stories we tell ourselves, the lies we tell ourselves about who we are not and who we're not. So I think you're 100% on that.
Awesome. Well, it's 10 o'clock. Do we want to take any comments? I think Dr. Joe's going to come off here probably.
Yeah.
Talk about some breakthroughs. Anybody else?
No, I mean, I really appreciate the content of the call, and we all find ourselves in this position from time to time. We want to get something done. We're trying to figure out what holds us back. You know, Dan, your stories are always motivating. How you hit that point where you said, okay, I want to reevaluate my life. I want to change what the priority is. And because you have a track record of success and what you've done, you were able to use that skill set into anything else you want to do. And it's a very encouraging and empowering thing to see that, to know you have this confidence that whatever it is you want to do in your life, you can do it through fixing or working on your mindset and applying your skill set from your past successes towards your future endeavors. And that's important. You know, we get down from time to time. We beat ourselves up. We say we should be somewhere, or we should be doing something. We should have had something done by now. We should all over ourselves, as it says. But when we work on our mindset, it really helps guide us at where we want to go. You know, in the course that you know, the instruction I give people on the metabolic reset you're talking about, I spend so much time in the mindset. I'm like, okay, I got to get off this. I got to get off of it and move on to what people have to do so they can get momentum and they can achieve mastery, right? We go from mystery to mastery, but we get so stuck in the mystery from time to time because we're just trying to figure it out. But you know what? You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And a couple of moments, in a couple of instances throughout the week, I did that slight edge where instead of going right down the stairs from leaving the gym, I made a left and I talked to a former NFL football player who wants to lose weight. And I talked to somebody who owns you know, anti-aging wellness spa. And I talked to the patient, and I scanned that extra patient and I sent an extra video. Those little slight edge differences that we can do from time to time, when we have that moment of doubt, that's the direction you need to go. So that doubt you have inside of yourself, eradicate it with action. Anytime you feel that you can't do something, you have to say to yourself, yes, I can, and you do it. And the worst thing that happens is you find a better way how to do it. And I know that you're really good at doing that. And Lawrence, you know, you've got such inspirations from the success you've had in your life as well. And you guide so many people, and you lead people into leading, you know, having them go where they need to go as well. So I appreciate you guys for doing this. Sometimes I think we spend a little too much time on mindset, but I don't think it's ever enough time, because you have to have the right mind before you go forward and do what you need to do so you can have what you want to have. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just like to add something. I really receive a lot of great value from this call every week, and I just want to thank you guys because I really appreciate it. It really helps me a lot.
Awesome. I'm glad it helps.
Well, thank
But
you.
just remember that success is transferable. You know, it doesn't matter what you've done in your life, everything that you've done to be successful, or anything you've done to be successful, those same skill sets can be transferred to something else, right? It's the skill sets that are going to carry you through to that success, right? Putting one step in front of the other. That's why I love mountain climbing so much. You can break it down into small bite-sized chunks, you know, put one step in front of the other. Can I climb 100 more steps? When you get to that 100, can I do another 100 steps? Can I do another 100 steps? You know, breaking things down. And, you know, you have this ultimate goal of standing on the top of the mountain, and you feel really successful. You feel like you've accomplished something. It's the same thing, no matter what you're doing in your life. Take those skill sets that made you successful in one thing, transfer them to the next thing.
100%.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. All right. Awesome. Anybody else?
Go ahead. Say
Thank
something?
you. Thank you.
I was going to say that I'm trying to figure out how to say it, but you know how when we talk about we're prospecting people and they need to be at 12 o'clock, they need to be at that position in their life, that moment where they're willing to listen. And if they're not there, you just dribble on them and you wait till they're ready. Well, I think that's analogous to these weekly calls on mindset, because there are sometimes I may be on this call and it's just not resonating with me. And then other times I'm ready for it. I'm just soaking it all in. And I will say most all times you guys are giving out such good information that whoever's ready at that point in time is going to soak in the right information to make a change in their lives. It may be today, it may be a year from today, but if they stay with these calls, it will resonate at some point. It'll be that day they say, tomorrow's going to be different, and now I know why. And so, yeah, I think you guys should just keep on keep on doing, you know.
Good. Thank you, Jim. Can I just quickly say something about mountain climbing, because it's burning my tongue here. There's a book, I think it's called The Silent Warrior, that I read many years ago, about an athlete who had an accident and he couldn't be, he was an Olympic athlete and he couldn't do that anymore and so on. And his trainer slowly got him back to health. And one day he said, we're going to climb up that mountain. And this guy's recovering his legs and so on. And he said, well, I'm going to show you something amazing at the top of the mountain. And fine. So they walked up the mountain and the guy said, well, we're going to get there. What are you going to show me? He said, well, you'll see when we get there. It's amazing. I'm showing you something amazing. Finally, they get up to the top of the mountain, finally. And the guy looks and he says, what are you going to show me? He says, the stone. He says, my gosh, it's a stone. He says, yes, but what I showed you was the climb up the mountain, the most beautiful scenes that you could ever imagine. You didn't see it because you were so focused on getting to the top of the mountain, you didn't see the journey. So enjoy the journey as well.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Create
Thank
some
you.
new standards. Have some breakthroughs. Think about what you want. Think about how you're going to get there. We'll see everybody next week.
Have a good
Listen,
weekend,
everybody, have a
everyone.
good week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend.
Always great.
Thanks.